Okay.
All right. So, hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Bren of Creative Living and Growing. Creative Living and Growing, host of this presentation. I'm really excited today to introduce you to my very special guest host, Miriam Goldberg. I was Miriam Wildflower. How are you?
I'm good. We've had a lot of snow in the past number of days, so I'm just adjusting because it was insanely warm for quite a while. And now I have to have a snow-focused snow brain.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know me, I'm down here in Ohio. We're in Hardiness Zone 5B. Now,
Yep.
you're up in Canada. Whereabouts are you?
Okay. Wildflower Farm is about an hour and a half north of Toronto.
Okay.
So I'm kind of in 5B. Sometimes people call it 6. Depends on where you are and if it's a sheltered environment. It's
Right.
not that different from yours.
Okay. And so, yeah, it has been a really weird season, hasn't it? So now let's, I know a little bit about you. I know you've got a beautiful farm up there. Tell us a little bit about how you grow.
Okay. So the backstory on what I grow and how I grow is that I've been farming flowers for 30 years. Yikes.
Yeah.
And years ago when we started out, we were wholesale dried flower growers. We were also Canada's very first pick your own flower farm.
Wow.
And then there was a period of time in the 80s, some of us remember the 80s, where we started switching gears and we became focused on native plants, North American perennial native plants. And this very quickly exploded into becoming wildflower landscapers. We installed wildflower gardens, meadows for people. And also, we became a native plant nursery, and so this is what we were doing on a very large scale, and servicing clients throughout Ontario. And then in the mid '90s, we were actually one of the very first businesses to create an online presence and an online shop, and started selling wildflower seeds. So we've been online for a really long time, and also dealing with land of bricks and mortar. And
Wait. What's that?
Bricks and mortar means a physical place as opposed to online. Right.
That's what I was going to ask you. So back in the 80s when you started, was this all like on your property there where you lived, your home?
Oh, totally. It's always been exactly where we lived. Our first farm was 100 acres, about 45 minutes north of Toronto. And then 12 years ago, we moved to the farm we're at now, which is about an hour and a half north of Toronto.
Okay.
And but there was this intersection where wildflowers and cut flowers and floral design came together. Mm-hmm. And that brings me to writing a couple of years ago now, my book, Taming Wildflowers. So these are all the things that I think about and that we focus on as a business, growing wildflowers from seed, as well as the other aspects I mentioned.
Yeah. So, and something also throw in there, you're Canadian. So everything you grow, it's organic. You do this all organically.
Yes, we are 100% organic. Now, we don't grow food, so we've never gone through all the hoops to become certified organic. Okay. But everything we do is thoroughly organic. And to attest to that, what's really cool is a couple of years ago, we had a visit from some of the provincial beehive inspectors. We have over 100 hives here at Wildflower Farm, beehives. And the inspector was absolutely mind blown because there was no death, zero death Now, we know that there's a huge number of issues with bee health and pesticides and neonicotinoids, et cetera. But here at the Wildflower Farm, 0 deaths in our hives. 0.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. So in any case, yes, we are small o organic.
Small. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of hard. I mean, that's hard to do. So what does organic gardening mean to you?
Well, it's interesting because organic gardening, aspects of permaculture gardening, natural gardening, all of these sort of buzz phrases that are popular these days, by its very definition, gardening with native plants and sustainable landscaping, the way we've always practiced it, is organic. Because you create these ecosystems with pollinators and plants that interact and perpetuate a sustainable system. Plus, when you're dealing with wildflower gardening, the way we practice it, and all the people who work with us practice it, and the way we explain on our website all the time, and I explain in the book, is when you combine wildflowers and native grasses, and you plant the way nature plants meadows and prairies, 1 plant per square foot, and you allow these plants to interact and grow close together, there's no room for weeds. You don't require all the pesticides and herbicides. And what's interesting too, and this is such a cool fact about working with native plants, is there have been a lot of studies lately that are proving that agricultural farmers, that is to say food farmers, that plant swaths of wildflowers, reduce the amount of pesticides and herbicides they need to use by up to 60 to 80%, because the wildflowers bring the beneficial bugs, and those bugs attack the bad bugs and they kill them off. So you don't need all those nasty chemicals. So it's just another great reason to grow wildflowers.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. We have quite a few people that have joined us live right now on Blab, and feel free, if you guys have a question, please go ahead, ask in the chat room. This is great.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have a lot of different kinds of questions and are coming at wildflowers for many different purposes and reasons. Sometimes they're community gardeners. Sometimes they're just, they've got a garden in their backyard. Sometimes they're flower farmers who want to incorporate native plants into what they're doing. So, whatever questions you have, I mean, there's so much to talk about. That's why we have this huge website, which is a guide for growing wildflowers, and why I wrote the book. So, please feel free to ask questions. What do I think about GMOs? Okay. Thanks for the question. Well, first of all, I will say that all the seeds that we produce, because we grow all these wildflower seeds here at Wildflower Farm, and we harvest them and we clean them and we package them and we sell them all over North America. And all our seeds are non-GMO. What do I think about GMOs? I don't feel comfortable with them myself. And they have absolutely nothing to do with any of the kind of horticulture or agricultural work that we do. So I'm not sure how I can answer that question further and stay relevant to our discussion.
Right. Yeah. I'm not a specialist in that either, but to my understanding, GMO is mostly, it's food. I mean, things you eat, right? I mean,
well, what's interesting too, and I don't want to get in over my head on this, but I'll mention to you, we're involved with a lot of the seed community as well, the professional international seed communities. And there were some interesting articles about how it's important to recognize that nature alters and modifies genetics naturally through certain interactions. For example, and again, I'm not an expert on this aspect of the science. You can look at the fact that any type of specific relationship between any wildflower and any pollinator or beneficial insect will over time alter the nature of the insect or the plant. Because, like monarchs and milkweed produces a chemical that is poisonous to the predators of monarchs. So there has been a natural modification, which is interesting to stir the pot up with on the discussion. But do I think we should eat modified foods? No.
Okay. We probably should get back on topic.
Yes,
because you're the wildflower lady. But there are some wildflowers you can eat.
Yep.
Right? But that may be another
lots.
Question.
Sure.
Well, I want to ask you, though, first this question. What are some of your favorite wildflowers? Maybe they are edible.
It's if any of you have kids, then you know that this question is a very difficult question because, who is your favorite child, Bren? Right?
Oh, wow.
I only have one grandchild right now, so I could say who my favorite grandchild is with safety. But beyond that, I would have to say that I like some of the lesser known wildflowers best. For example, Vernonia or ironweed is so stunning. Blooms in the late summer. It has brilliant purple flowers. It's absolutely stunning and makes a great cut flower. It happens to be super attractive to many, many beneficial pollinators, including monarchs. That's one of my favorites.
Right.
I love purple prairie clover.
Oh, yeah.
It's so bizarre looking. It looks like a capsule shaped blossom with this bright pink and purple skirt all around it.
Beautiful.
Just weird, cool plants.
Yeah.
There's just so many neat wildflowers. And when I first got into them, I started studying them long time ago. At first I was kind of pissed off because so many people don't know about these extraordinary, beautiful plants.
Yeah.
And again, that's another reason why we work with wildflowers and why I think they're so important. They're so extraordinarily gorgeous.
Yeah. Now, the one that you mentioned, you can actually get these on your website, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Everything I'm talking about are going to be plants. Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. So if someone happens to be new to growing wildflowers from seed, can you give us any tips on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's basically two different ways that you would grow perennial wildflowers.
Okay.
There's two categories, okay? Mm-hmm. So the first category is what I call sow and grow, and those are the ones that don't need to have the hard shell on the seed broken down.
Okay.
Their shells are softer. Mm-hmm. So you just plant them in the spring and they start to grow.
Okay.
The second kind is the ones that require what some people call winter sowing, and others from a horticultural official perspective is called cold moist stratification.
Oh,
what that means in English is if a wildflower has a harder shell, something has to break down the thick, hard shell in order for the seed to get the cue that it's good to grow. It's cool now. Do it.
Okay.
And so what that really means is that shell has to freeze and thaw a bunch of times. And that breaks down the thick shell. And so you can do that a bunch of ways. You can plant seeds in pots and put them outside in the winter.
Okay.
And if you go to the Wildflower Farm website, there's a really great link called How to Grow Wildflowers.
Okay.
I also have a chapter in my book, Taming Wildflowers, called Making Babies.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, making babies. Yeah, yes, keeping it clean, Bren. So, secondly, so you plant these wildflowers in pots,
Okay.
and then let nature do the work. Just put them outside. Now you can do that now, or depending on where you live, you have a lot of leeway. In other words, every March we get, and sometimes April, we get panicked phone calls or emails from people saying, oh my God, is it too late for me to start the plants that have to be cold, moist, stratified? Oh my God. And the answer is yes, because there's a couple of things you can do. First of all, if it's still sketchy outside and it gets cold at night, like really cold, you just do the same thing. You put the plants in the pots, they get to freeze and thaw. They don't need snow on them. They just need to freeze and thaw. Right. Or the big cheat, which I call the speed dial version. You take your plants, you put them in pots, moisten soil, and there's some detail there in what you do, but that's the basic for purposes of this conversation. And you put them in your pots in your growing medium, you moisten the growing medium, and you put the pot in the freezer.
Oh. Kind of like forcing bulbs, like when we force bulbs.
Sort of, yeah. You put it in the freezer for a day or two. Then you move it to the refrigerator for a day or two. And then you go back to the freezer and you go back and forth a bunch of times. And what happens is the shell breaks down because you have freeze thaw. So you're just speeding up the process and imitating what nature does. And then you put it in a warm place with sun and moisture, and the seed thinks it's spring. Very simple.
Tricky.
Yeah. So these are some of the simple things. And I will say that I'm super. Can you link to the website? We will link to the website.
I did.
Yep. Good. It's super easy. It's wildflowerfarm.com. So anyway, I'm going to be doing a webinar, which will be a wildflower seed school.
Cool.
And that's coming up. It's going to be a free webinar on Wednesday, February 24th.
Very cool.
We will be putting up links about that in the next number of weeks. They're not up yet, but it'll happen. So just watch for that. You can find me on Twitter or Facebook. There's a million places. Instagram, I'm all over the place. Right. So that's going to be really fun. And we're going to do like a kind of a live seed along, if you will.
This is great. No, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear more about that. That was kind of an exclusive. I haven't seen it on your Facebook.
Nope. I've just the occasional tease about that because that's my next project.
Webinars are fun. You'll love that. I know. I can't wait.
Very excited
to attend. So thank you, everybody. We've got lots of people in the chat room. Please don't be shy. I had a question there, but I did it wrong. You have to do a /Q, and then we'll get your question here, and we're happy to answer them. Yeah. And thank you, Kupak for asking. Great topic. I'm hoping we can, get some more seedy people on here and talk more about all the different topics, seeds. Seeds can be pretty intense. I mean,
I think people find seeding very intimidating. I personally love it. I have seeded hundreds and hundreds of thousands of annuals and perennials over my lifetime. And I love seeding. If you simply follow the directions, it's kind of like baking. Follow the directions in the order in which they're given, and it's not that difficult to do. But I know a lot of people find it intimidating, but it's actually very simple. Yeah, and I love when things begin to germinate, and I love running back there to find them. So there was a question about recommendations for starting now.
Oops,
midwinter in Finland. Yes. Welcome, Finland.
Yeah.
So, yes, you can definitely start anything outside if you are cold, moist, stratifying, or winter sowing outside now. There are several different methods to winter sow. Right now, I'm just talking about this very simple one. So you plant your seeds. In our case, we're talking about perennial wildflower seeds in pots. Mm-hmm. And you make sure that the seed is covered. You apply pressure, make sure everything is nice and moist. Mm-hmm. So you're duplicating late fall, in other words. And then you put it outside and you just leave it there. Let the snow come over it. Just leave it be. But I will make one more comment and sort of backpedal a little bit on one thing, which is to say, make sure you label what you're seeding. I like to put the name of the plant, the date I seeded it, right? So that's important to do. And then leave it outside. And then after it's frozen and thawed a number of times in the spring, mm-hmm. you can either just leave it there and keep watering it or bring it into a warm environment, either a sunny window or a greenhouse situation or growing tables of some sort. There are lots of ways to grow plants on from there.
Very cool.
I hope that helps answer your question.
Yeah, she says, or he says, often mess that up when I'm not doing it from the start.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Have a look at the instructions on the Wildflower Farm website about growing from seed. And then if you haven't picked up a copy of Taming Wildflowers, then by all means, feel free to order one and check out the Making Babies chapter.
Oh my, bestseller. So that was my next question for you. Yep. Tell us a little bit about the book. When did the book came out? Last year, was it?
Yes. Well, okay. the book came out in February, so 2014. So it's almost 2 years now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, it does.
And it's been extraordinarily well received, and I'm extremely grateful for that and very proud. Yeah. The book is really different from a traditional wildflower book. I own many wildflower books. I use them as resources, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a very different kind of book for a lot of very specific reasons. There is no other wildflower book that has pictures of wildflower seedlings. Yeah. And I think that's really helpful for people because if you're out in the garden and you're trying to figure out what the heck is that?
Yeah.
This is a great way to learn what the heck is that? Is that something to leave, something to edit out, etc. Secondly, there's no other wildflower book that talks about wildflowers as cut flowers. No other book that talks about wildflowers in DIY wildflower weddings, and no other book that will give you other uses for wildflowers, which wildflowers work well in containers, which wildflowers dry well, which wildflowers are edible, which state and province are each of these wildflowers from. And to me, one of the most important differences is each of the 60 different wildflowers that I focus on, I talk about their specific pollination partnerships.
Okay.
And that's really important because wildflowers are the plants that grow all the beneficial bugs and pollinators that we love and cherish so much.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of that? Like, what do you mean? Like, is there two plants? Tell us.
Okay, I'll give you two different examples.
Okay.
Okay, so the first famous example, and I call it the gateway plant to wildflowers, is milkweed. Because more and more people are starting to realize, oh my God, there's no monarchs anymore. We've got to do something. Mm-hmm. And so there's wonderful programs underway to grow milkweeds throughout the entire migrational corridors, all over North America, down to Mexico, et cetera. And so people are realizing that monarchs and milkweed are connected in some extraordinarily specific ways, and they help each other out. They've got like they say in the mafia, they got arrangements. They got each other's back. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's one of the best examples of relationships between pollinators and wildflowers. And monarchs, as many of us now know, need milkweed in order to grow. In other words, the monarchs lay their eggs on milkweed and only on milkweed. The caterpillars, when they hatch, they have to eat milkweed foliage. That they must have it. They'll have nothing else. Thank you very much. And then many monarchs begin eating nectar when they are finally mature by eating milkweed nectar. But it's important to mention, and then I'll get to another example. Good companion wildflowers for hemp? Nope. I actually don't know the answer to that question. Sorry. I can find out for you if you want to email us. Yeah. I'd be very happy to do that. And that's an intriguing question that I would like to know the answer to. But in any case, to finish this, after milkweed finishes blooming, that means that the nectar from milkweeds are no longer available to monarchs, right? Because flowers are done.
Right.
So what's a monarch to do? What is a monarch going to eat? Other wildflowers.
Right.
It's super important to grow other wildflowers in addition to milkweed that are essential also for monarchs. Liatris is a great example, or blazing stars, a lot of the asters, the vernonia or ironweed I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of these that are really important. The second great example of a relationship between a wildflower and a beneficial bug or a pollinator is blue false indigo, or baptisia, which was the perennial plant of the year a number of years ago. Beautiful blue spikes early in the summertime. Now, the bumblebees are a native bee, a form of native bee, and they get into the blossoms of the blue false indigo, and in order to do it, they fly in at a certain angle and they buzz around. They do this little dance, and propriety will not dictate my doing that dance here, but it's a very fancy dance where they wiggle their butts, and they wiggle their butts so fast that the entire blossom vibrates and the pollen falls off. See, that looks cool. That's the right way to see it visually. The pollen vibrates and falls off. The bumblebee zooms in, grabs the pollen, and leaves a message to other bumblebees. I already did this one. You don't have to do that one. Move on to the next one.
Okay.
The pollen. So these are important relationships.
Oh, well, will monarchs use a butterfly house? Do we cover that?
No, we haven't covered that yet.
Okay.
Monarchs are not really terribly impressed with butterfly houses.
Right. Okay.
They look lovely. They're cute.
Yeah.
They look pretty in the garden.
They're smart. They like it natural.
They do.
Very cool. And then I had someone pop in, Mr. Green or MT Green Eyes here. Isn't gardening already organic? Not necessarily.
Well, wildflower gardening by its very nature is organic. Regular gardening
depends on where you live, I guess.
It could be before humans invented all sorts of products, quote unquote, that are not really helpful to our ecosystems.
All right. So we've got quite a crowd in here. If anybody else has questions, please just put them on the side there.
Yeah, there's really a lot to cover. So if anybody wants to ask any question, large or small, general or specific, I'd be happy to answer it.
Fun. Yeah, because you've been growing organic wildflowers for how many years? I hate to say that, but
Oh no, it's okay. I'm
and you look beautiful.
Thank you. Than the
You really
average
do.
human. It's dancing and gardening. That's what does it. But over 25 years.
Wow.
I've been doing this. Yeah.
So
is it true mankind will perish without bees? Well, I think that the best way to answer that question is to say that as humans, we require food. And approximately 2/3 of the food that we eat at this point in our lives on this planet require pollination. Mm-hmm. And pollination is done by many different forms of pollinators, including bees. So we do definitely need pollinators in order to survive. Okay. But there's some really interesting research that is proving that a lot of the native pollinators, which bees in North America are not native. I don't know if you know that. I hate to break that to you. And I have hives, as I said earlier. I love the European honeybees, but they're not native to here. And the native pollinators, for example, there are many examples, and I'm not a bug expert, but like a lot of the native bees, like bumblebees, have been proven to be much hardier and more rigorous. They don't care if it's cold or if it's rainy. They go out there and pollinate. A lot of the times the honeybees are a lot fussier. You know, they're kind of like, it's too hot, it's too cold, I'm not going to go out yet. You know, so it's important, I think, to grow lots of pollinators and beneficial bugs in order to remain a healthy human species, as well as, and this is not a secondary thing, to serve the needs of our fellow creatures on this planet.
Yeah, definitely. So our friend from Twitter, Growing North, Pam, she said, would it be fair then to say that without bees, more than humans would suffer? No bees, no seeds, massive plants, species die off. Yes.
All of the interactions that take place between beneficial insects and pollinators and wildflowers and native species of other sorts are essential for all creatures on this planet, including humans. Yes.
Very fun. So we had someone in the chat room. They're wondering if you're going to open a retail location again. You already have a shop there, don't you?
Oh, okay. Well, 3 years ago, we decided to close down our retail store. Okay. We had been running that 7 days a week for 25 years. Wow. And my husband has a charming version of why we closed the store. And it is that we had heard about this thing that many of our customers had told us about called a weekend. And we thought we would try it out. And we found that we enjoyed it. And we also have lots of grandkids now all over North America. And so for us, having an online presence gives us the flexibility to lead our lives and still grow wildflower seeds and sell them, etc. Also, one thing that I'm doing more and more of is virtual education. Like as I mentioned, I'm doing that wildflower seed school. And then we're also going to start offering more Skype presentation events all over North America so that I can come to your garden club or your conservation organization and be with you and answer all your questions without us all breaking the bank or using all those nasty airplanes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Growing North wanted to take this one more step. If we take it further, I suppose loss of plants equals loss of carbon sink plus topsoil erosion, etc. I vote we keep the bees and pollinators, including mosquitoes.
Yeah, we kind of can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
I think we really do need the entire ecosystem. And the thing is, the more everything is included, the more every creature and component is included, the more balanced a system you have. When you start tampering with the system, you find that there are unexpected downsides to that. You can certainly get into that, but that's, yes, online schools are the future.
Yes.
It's true. Yeah, I love being able to hang out with everybody and still be home.
Yeah. Yeah,
really nice.
That's the cool thing about this. I mean, Blab is fun. I forgot in the beginning to talk about, if you see down in the bottom of our screens, you have like it looks like a little goalie thing to me, but those are like props. Like if you like what we're saying, if you like what you're hearing, you could just feed our ego and click on our faces or whatever there. But whatever, I appreciate you all being here. And please, if you have any more questions, I think we have a little bit more time, maybe just a little bit here. Ask away. I got to tell you, Miriam, so you know me, I'm Bren, living in Ohio. I've got a geodesic dome, and it's been
so cool.
Very cold. And I'll tell you what, I just was outside. It's hard for me to come back inside. I have my borage. My borage looks amazing. It's blooming. And I just feel so bad that I don't have any bees in there to enjoy it with me.
Yeah, that's the thing. In the summer, you can, of course, leave a growing facility open, and you get a lot of pollinators that wander in. Yeah. It's much more challenging in the wintertime for sure, but it's still worthwhile. Absolutely.
Totally. I walk outside and it doesn't feel like winter. You know what I mean? You come out and it's like, hey, so what? It's 18 degrees. I love this.
Yeah. So I will mention to people that, again, that there's so much wonderful stuff you can learn about wildflowers by going to wildflowerfarm.com. We've really tried hard over the years to make it a very comprehensive growing guide. There's a huge amount of information, pictures of all the plants, and we're really available to answer questions for you in every format you can possibly think of. Here we are in Blab, and I'm on like Wildflower Farm Facebook, Taming Wildflowers Facebook, my Facebook page, emails, Instagram, all these, Twitter. There's all these different ways to talk with us and to grow your knowledge and enjoy playing with flowers, which is such a great and exciting thing.
I want to start more wildflowers. I mean, I have quite a few that are perennial and they just come up every year anyhow. But I really like what you were just talking about, how you can take the container. Like now would be the time for me to get that in a container, get them outside and let them kind of do their thing. Yeah.
But you know what? If you get really busy and you don't get to it for another month or more, you're still fine, Bren.
Okay.
You're still fine. That's the beauty of all these different approaches and options that I've outlined really briefly. I've got some really funny videos too about different methods to do this. And a lot of them are going to get included in the upcoming Wildflower Seed School webinar, which will be really fun. And I think it'll be just a really fun time and a great hang to just explain all this and make seeding wildflowers unintimidating.
Yeah. I think sometimes, I mean, this just comes to mind. I find online a lot of people confuse native plants and wildflowers. They're not really the same, are they?
Some people do consider them to be the same thing. There's a lot of names for different things. Okay. And that's another thing I talk about in the book a lot at the beginning to explain. Like sometimes if people just randomly see something outside in a ditch, they think, oh, that's a wildflower.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. It may be a plant that's just come from somewhere else and that just likes growing here. So that's actually a naturalized plant. So we have a question. Do I think winter sowing is an effective way to start wildflowers? Yep. Done it for many, 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 many years. Yeah. Works great. The thing is, with working with wildflowers, the more you duplicate and replicate what nature itself does, the more successful you're going to be. And winter sowing does replicate what nature does. So yes, the answer is yes.
Very fun. So we've got a full house in here. Please ask more questions, guys. In the meantime,
I know when I've been starting to snoop around in Blab myself because I knew this was coming up and it was a completely new platform to me. And so I would be like just hanging out there and be very reticent, afraid to ask a question. But honestly, you can just like anything. There's no stupid questions, as they say. And it's really true because everybody starts somewhere. Do I have any speaking events coming up?
You keep taking my job. That's my job.
I do.
You may have already answered that question, but go ahead.
That's fine. Yeah, I do. I'm just reading along.
Go.
Yeah, I do. I have a bunch of different things coming up. One of the things I have to get done in the next day or two is to update our events page on the website.
Okay.
And so that's not there yet, but it will be by next week.
Okay.
So sorry about that. My bad.
No worries.
But I do have, like I say, I'm going to be doing a lot more virtual webinars. And then if any of you happen to be in Southern Ontario, there's two big pieces of news that we haven't gotten to yet. One that's going on the website very shortly is we're going to be doing a very special wildflower DIY wedding packages at the farm. That is going to be an amazing, amazing thing. And I'm very excited about that. So if you're in Southern Ontario and you know somebody who's getting married and they want to have a DIY wildflower wedding where they pick all the flowers from Wildflower Farm, they might want to be in touch. That'll be going on the website soon.
Yeah, I got a question about that, about your the wildflowers and weddings. I actually have a good friend that's getting married in autumn. Well, yeah, it's like late September. And she, one of the first things she texted me after we found out she was getting married was, I just love peonies, but I can't have peonies in my, September wedding. I know, right?
No, Zippo, no. She has to change the date of her wedding entirely. She's got to turn that boat around. It's just not happening.
Being myself, of course, I said, well, dahlias. I grow quite a few dahlias that look a little bit like a peonies, not the same smell or same scent, same,
Good upsell, Bren. Very good upsell.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. Can you recommend any wildflower that might have that same appearance, that big poofy,
That would be in bloom in the fall.
Yeah. Well, late September. And then it depends on our weather. I mean, it could be spring by September.
Yeah. The weather is always a separate issue.
I know.
A wildflower that looks like a peony that time? No.
I don't know. Yeah.
No.
I know.
No, there are lots of wildflowers for fall weddings, but not that physically resemble peonies.
Sure.
Yeah.
She needs to just come out and walk through your fields, and she'll change her mind completely about what flower she needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. If she didn't happen to live in Ohio. Yeah, exactly. This is going to be for my neighbors, in Southern and Central Ontario.
Yeah. Well, we're only 5 hours away. I think you can.
Yeah.
It's not that far.
Exactly. Yeah. There is one other announcement I will make.
Oh my.
Which is, for the very first time this coming year, we're going to address a panicked question we get every spring. Okay. Here's what happens. We're still talking about weddings. every April or May or even June, we get panicked phone calls and emails saying, my daughter is getting married in my backyard in August and I want wildflowers.
Oh.
And we always have had to say, no, these are all perennial wildflowers. That's not going to happen. So what we have done is we have created a speed dial meadow mix.
That's cool. What?
A speed dial meadow mix. It will be an annual meadow mix that will have a lot of beautiful wildflowers and a lot of great cutting garden flowers, non-native. Okay. First time we've ever gone officially non-native in what will be offered on the website. And this is not even on the website anymore.
We've got an exclusive here. Wow. I love it.
Yep.
And
that's going on the website in a few weeks.
Would that be
so the question is not wild, but maybe sunflowers. Yes, there will be sunflowers, but not in the meadow mix because they're too tall.
Cosmos?
Pardon?
Is that Cosmos, maybe? Is that how you say
it?
Cosmos? Yes. Things like that.
Yes. I actually have the list here. Yes. Snapdragons, cornflowers, partridge pea, that's native. Clarkia, they are native. Cosmos, various poppies, some of which are genuinely native to California. Yellow lupin, which is native. Monarda citriodorta or lemon bee balm, which is one of the most gorgeous annual natives on the planet. Mexican hat, black-eyed Susans of various sorts. Lots and lots of cool stuff and some late blooming zinnias. And so it will be a beautiful annual meadow mix.
Yeah, so now,
but it's annual, which means
but you still need How much time though? I mean, like, so if somebody calls you in July and they need these plants by September,
no, that's a no-go. But these are phone calls that come in the spring.
Yeah.
So this will definitely address all those panicked parents,
right?
who want to have a beautiful pseudo meadow.
And you could do that. Meadow. You could totally do that.
Yeah, as long as you understand that it only lasts that season. And if you wanted that again, you would have to start again completely. The beauty of a true meadow, a perennial North American native wildflower meadow mix, is that you seed it once, and once it matures, it will last anywhere from 50 to 75 to over 100 years with minimum maintenance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool indeed.
Yeah, we've got quite a lot of people in the chat room. Do you see the map? And that looks great. How
Very
exciting.
Nice.
Thank you everyone for joining us. I just love Blab. It's a great way to connect, and I love my Canadian friends. You guys got it going with the organic gardening. You do.
Yep.
Do you know Paul Zammit? I think he's going to be at an event.
He's a dear buddy of mine. Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's another little news bulletin. Toronto Botanical Garden, of which he is the horticultural head.
Yes.
And has been for a number of years, has been carrying our low-maintenance turf grass eco-lawn for many, many years. And that's something we can talk about as well. But they are now starting to carry our wildflower seeds, which I'm very excited about.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great honor. They're a great organization.
You've come a long way. I remember when I first met you online. I mean, you were one of the first really engaging seed people, kind of. I mean, that's right. I mean,
absolutely.
It's been great to watch you grow here. And
thank you. And thank you, Growing North. Yeah. I'm glad you like the website. Yeah, my husband is our webmaster, and he's been at it for many, many, many years. And
that's nice.
We take really great pride in giving people a huge amount of information and support, and really helping people to learn how to grow wildflowers successfully.
Totally. How fun. So if anybody else has any questions, medicinal.
Oh, there's another question. I don't get involved in medicinal stuff. I really couldn't tell you. Those are all very good questions. I'm not involved with medical practice in any way. So that's not something I could answer.
What a great topic, though. We'll have to.
Yes.
I know a few herb specialists. Maybe we can get someone on.
Yeah, no, I have every respect for medicinal applications of herbs and native plants. Of course, there's a huge overlap between those two categories. But that is a separate discipline from what I do.
How fun. So did we get the question, Growing North was asking, do you do the majority of your sales online? I think, you're basically.
It's all online and also business to business. So, for example, the Toronto Botanical Gardens, other places that carry our seeds. But primarily, we sell all the wildflower seeds online all over North America. I will tell you, too, that in terms of the way we organize the website, there's a very cool link on the website called Seed Selector. And when you go onto that link, you just put in the type of soil, the amount of moisture, the amount of sunlight your site has, as well as you can even put in the bloom time. You can even put in your state and province, and it will give you a huge list of all the wildflowers and native grasses we carry that will thrive in exactly your conditions. So that, I think, is also very helpful and very important for people. Yeah, so it's all online. Yep.
It's very cool. So, well, gosh, this has really been fun. Are you having fun?
Thanks, Bren. Yeah, this is actually fun. I mean, this is not a medium that I was familiar with. It's really hard just to keep up with all the different new social platforms that are happening all the time.
I know.
And so I thank you for sort of dragging me kicking and screaming into Blab. And this is actually super fun. It's one of the things I want to be doing with our webinars and will be doing, which we'll be talking about, which will have a lot of live video interchange and, guest hosts and visitors and all kinds of things. So, we're going to make it as real as possible.
Sure. We had another question here. I'm assuming that's a social media platform. And no, I have not heard of Bitcoin.
Oh, of course I've heard of it.
Oh, hey, have you?
Bitcoin's been around for a really long time. It's a virtual financial system, but that really has nothing to do with wildflowers. No. So
I guess we did change gears talking about the Blab, but that's fine. How exciting. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And just, on a closing note, once again, Miriam, can you tell us once again where we can find you on the web?
Yes, you can find me at wildflowerfarm.com. You could also find me at tamingwildflowers.com. My Twitter and Instagram handle is Miriam Wild FLR. That's MiriamWildFLR. And that's how it works. And I do a lot of Instagram posting, and I'm very active on Facebook. The Facebook Wildflower Farm has 4 different sites, actually. There's the Wildflower Farm one. There's Miriam Goldberger. There's Eco Lawn, which is our low maintenance turf grass. And then there's Taming Wildflowers. So there's 4 different ways that we interact and communicate and have enjoyable conversations with you.
It's wonderful. Thank you again for joining us today.
Oh, you're so welcome.